Hello and good evening. Welcome to News Tonight with me, Anu George. The local body polls may have thrown up predictable winners from the ruling party, but there are a few others whose victory has signaled a triumph against all odds, like the story of a farmer from Mahabalipuram who is the new Panchayat president of his village. But what makes this election so special? We will bring you the story in just a bit, but before that, here's a look at the top headlines making news at this hour. The bodies of two girls killed in a bridge collapse in Nepal to be brought to Chennai tonight. Chief Minister Jayalalitha orders officials to ensure the best treatment to those injured. Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee denies Jayalalitha's charge that non-Congress ruled states are given stepmotherly treatment by the centres. Scientists in Chennai vouch for the safety of the Kudamkulam nuclear plant, says there are enough safeguards to prevent a Fukushima-like disaster. A Chennai revenue officer arrested along with 4 others for beating up a retired government servant in Anna Nagar. Fighting against all odds, a bonded labour is elected as a Panchayat president. And here is what's making news across the country. LK Advani says his yatra will go to Bangalore even as Yedurappa supporters are unhappy with Advani. Congress in Rajasthan holds a crucial meeting. Is it the Gehlot government in damage control after Bharatpur violence? At least 32 people have died and over 100 injured after a bridge collapses near Darjeeling. A new biography claims that Steve Jobs advised Bill Clinton to come clean after the Monica Lewinsky affair. After the royal wedding, Bhutan's first couple head to India on a 9-day visit. A top story, the Tamil Nadu government had ordered the state residential commissioner to expedite the flying in of the bodies of the 2 girls killed in the Nepal bridge collapse tragedy. The bodies are likely to reach Chennai any time now. These 2 girls were postgraduate students studying social work in a college in the city. The girls drowned in the Trishuli river where the suspension bridge where they were standing on collapsed. 10 other students are reported to have suffered head injuries. The Tamil Nadu government has also arranged for immediate medical assistance to them. The students were part of a 40-member study trip to Nepal. The centre has rebutted Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha's charge that non-Congress ruled states are being accorded stepmotherly treatment by the union government, a day after Prime Minister Manmohan Singh issued a strong statement denying any sort of discrimination, and it was just a matter of perception. Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee today took strong exception to Chief Minister Jayalalitha's charge, saying it was absolutely wrong. He also asked why the Chief Minister was not a part of National Development Council. Well, it looks like more scientists are giving the Kudamkulam nuclear plant the no objection certificate, but will they actually manage to convince the public? In a recent gathering of top-notch nuclear experts, scientists actually took pains to carefully detail the safety precautions and regulations followed by the nuke power generation plant.
Normally, the higher amount of the wave depends on the energy generated with the earthquake under the sea, that whatever the height they were told 10 to 15 kilometers or depth or anything. With this, whatever the probable height, if we have seen the Fukushima or the Indonesia, they are all rated beyond 9 and 9 to 9.2 on the Richter scale, and the energy generated is known. It is not, the data is not available. With the data, they have modeled it and it is available with our national oceanography people. They are already doing that job and the data is available. So that's what we are doing. There are different committees are formed by the government and they are going into and looking into the every system, and they are coming to our plants and their recommendations are also being given, which we are following it up. And presently as it is, there is no problem with that one, and we have augmented certain, after the power supply system at the Fukushima was kept crippled, we have taken into consideration, we have also augmented our things with so many things with the taking into consideration the possible level of the tsunami, whatever is there.
In a shocking incident in Anna Nagar, a suspended Chennai district revenue officer was beaten up by 4 men who also ransacked his house and stole his vehicle. The police have arrested the 4 men and remanded them to judicial custody. Rags to riches, Prada to nada. We hear about them all the time, at least we read about them in fiction or see them in the silver screen. But it's not often we know someone who rises from being a nobody to somebody. Well, no, that's not true either. We do have P.T. Ushas and even Uday Kumars who designed the rupee symbol hitting the headlines. But again, it is not often do we come across such a success story. This story is the success of our government, of the rehabilitation that the Kanchipuram district administrations met to a family and of an NGO which complemented the functions of the government. We are going to speak about Kutti, a newly elected Panchayat president who had won with flying colors as the entire village stood by him. I'm sure you're all wondering what is so spectacular about winning a Panchayat election. To understand this, we will rewind a bit to his past.
The first sign of empowerment. 35-year-old Kutti on his daily rounds, surveying the problems across Panchatirthi village near Mahabalipuram. And this is in his all-new avatar as the Panchayat president of his village. Once a bonded labourer, the local body polls changed Kutti's life. He contested as an independent and over 70% of the villagers voted for him. That's because they know the pain he went through. 5 years ago, Kutti worked as a labourer in a rice mill in Salem when he took a loan of Rs 15,000 from his owner. But unable to return the huge sum of money, Kutti and his family were forced to work as bonded labourers in the rice mill for nearly 2 years.
ஒரு மாதிரியா திட்ட ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க. அப்புறம் வந்து வேலை செய்ய முடியல, உடம்பு சரியில்லைன்னு சொன்னா ஹாஸ்பிட்டலுக்கு அனுப்ப மாட்டாங்க. உடம்பு சரியில்லைன்னா கூட மறுபடியும் நீ வேலை செய்யணும்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. நான் வந்து அப்போ என்ன சொன்னேன்னாக்கா, என்னால் அந்த மாதிரி வேலை செய்ய முடியல, உடம்பு முடியல அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருந்தேன். அது சொல்லின்னு இருக்கும்போது அப்போ என்ன பண்ணாங்க, சரி உடம்பு முடியலனாக்கா ஆனால் காசுனா தர மாட்டேன்னு சொன்னாங்க. ஒன்றும் அதிகமாக இதுமாரி வேலை செய்யலைனாக்கா உன்ன மாதிரி ரத்தங்கள்லாம் கக்க வர மாதிரி என்ன சொன்னீங்கன்னா பண்ணுவேன், அதுமாதிரிலாம் பண்ணுவேன் அப்படின்னா சொல்லி மிரட்டினாங்க.
With the help of an NGO and district officials, Kutti, his wife and 3 children were finally rescued and brought back to his village. Kutti's story bears testimony to the inhuman practice of bonded labour that rages on with impunity in India despite a ban across the country imposed in 1976. A survey by an NGO, Human Rights Watch, in 2008 revealed that there are 40 million bonded labourers in India and the numbers are still on the rise.
People who are poor come into desperate situations, like they may have a medical emergency, so they need money, and so they go and look for a job. And what happens is, because they're uneducated and they're poor, these owners take advantage of their ignorance and prey on them by bringing into the system.
While Kutti considers himself lucky to have been rescued, there are many others still languishing in the dark, trapped under the vicious circle of bonded labour. While activists continue their battle to rescue these labourers, they only hope that the government adopts a hawk-eye view of the impending violation of labour laws. In Chennai, this is Krishnamurthy for NDTV Hindu.
Kutti was a bonded labourer, and if the revenue divisional officer did not rescue him and those families, he would have probably remained one for perhaps his entire life. Now, how did this happen? How did a bonded labourer win his freedom and then move on to being the leader of a local body? Did his former employer let him go all by himself? No. Did his freedom come easy? No. Viewers, we at NDTV Hindu are proud to present to you the driving force behind the freedom of a man whose potential for leadership could have been bottled and corked and chained for many years of his unending servitude as a bonded labourer. Joining us in this discussion is Dr. Shri Lakshmidhar Mishra, IAS retired Special Rapporteur, NHRC, Delhi. Dr. Mishra was responsible for formulation of national labour policy, national labour laws, etc. currently. As a Special Rapporteur, National Human Rights Commission from 2006, Dr. Mishra investigates and reports to the Commission complaints relating to bonded labour, child labour and child bonded labour, trafficking for forced labour, etc. And we also have with us Ms. Pranita Timothy, Director, Aftercare, International Justice Mission. She has rehabilitated over 3,700 rescued and released bonded laborers. Mr. Lakshmidhar Mishra will join us from Hyderabad. He's on a flight from Delhi. It will take some time for us. It is a privilege to have him with us. I will start the discussion with Ms. Pranita. Pranita, it is very kind of you to join us on this discussion. I would like to ask you a couple of questions. Can you just briefly describe the situation of a bonded laborer inside a facility?
Well, Anu, the situation of a bonded laborer, most people may think is, first of all, that bonded laborers don't exist today in today's world. But like you've already mentioned, the Human Rights Watch has mentioned that there are 40 million people and the conditions they live in are really pathetic. If you go into different facilities, it could be rice mills, it could be brick kilns, rock quarries, you will find that they have been holed up in small areas, less than 10 by 10 rooms, feet rooms, where there is absolutely no electricity. Sometimes they've been holed up in places where families have no privacy, there are no bathrooms, women have to bathe outside. If you look at the conditions of the work inside, if you take a rice mill or a brick kiln, the work begins in the middle of the night, and so they start working at 12 a.m. and they continue to work till evening 8 o'clock.
That's how many hours of sleep?
They hardly get any amount of sleep. And if you talk to a bonded laborer after the rescue and you ask them, you know, what do you cherish the most about your freedom, and they will tell you two things. It's really heartbreaking, but they will tell you two things. One, I can eat when I feel hungry, and I can sleep when I want. And these are two basic things that none of us even worry about, but for a bonded laborer, because of the conditions of their work and what they're forced to do, you know, the most basic things, sleep and food, are deprived.
But Pranita, wouldn't it be easy to assume that they would look at this as an opportunity? You know, I mean, I'm sure they might not be fenced all the time. Why can't they just run away from there?
Yeah.
Or do you get this question all the time?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You know, when I first began this work among the bonded laborers, rescuing them, I walked into a rice mill where there wasn't any boundaries. I mean, no walls, there were no barbed wires, nothing. It was just open. And I asked them this question, like, it's open, why can't you just leave and just escape from here? And one of them explained to me, said, you don't understand. You know, one of our co-workers ran away, and they were tracked back. The owner took a car, went after him, brought him back, beat him up in front of all of us and told us, this is what will happen to you if you escape. And they put the amount, the cost of traveling to the village, put it onto the advance, and told him that he has to repay that. And so
just a second, Pranita, I hate to break you in at this point. We have Mr. Lakshmidhar Mishra joining us from, we've got the phone through. Mr. Mishra? Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, sir, it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege to have you here with us. We now have a success story of a released laborer whose entire village came together to make him the Panchayat president. This does bring a whole ray of hope. However, it also brings to light a social evil, that is bonded labor. Given the severity of the human rights violation, do bonded labor cases receive the priority in the courts and amongst the government officials? Do they get the respect that they deserve?
This is a major area of concern for the government, for the Supreme Court, for the National Human Rights Commission, and for all the human rights bodies. We have with us all that we need to have to deal with these major social scores. But regretfully, we have not been able to do enough or achieve enough to nip this in the bud. And there are a number of factors which have contributed to this phenomenon. We have a constitution which, through Article 23, has clearly advocated total abolition of forced labor and begar. We have two international treaties, ILO Convention number 29 of 1930 and ILO Convention number 105 of 1957. Both of them have been ratified by the Government of India, and in pursuance of And in pursuance of this ratification, we have enacted Bonded Labor System Abolition Act in February 1976, but have given retrospective effect to it from 25th of October 1975. Honorable Supreme Court of India has given a very broad, liberal and expansive interpretation of the provisions of the law through 23 judgments.
Yes, sir, I wanted to ask you that, sir. Between 1981 and 2006, there has been 23 judgments by the Supreme Court. I was just about to ask you, this is directed towards the abolition of the Bonded Labor Act, furthering which the Constitution of Vigilance Committee Extra was put in place. But some organizations like Human Rights Watch put the number of bonded laborers in millions. But are there frequently convictions under the Bonded Labor Act, sir? Despite all this...
There have been convictions, but the punishment which has been awarded by the court is not commensurate with the severity of the offence committed. For example, in Tamil Nadu, some courts have pronounced through their judgments punishments till rising of the court. Now, this is not a sufficient deterrent for occurrence and recurrence of this offence. So this is the major dilemma, that the provision is 3 years imprisonment and 2,000 fine, but then the court awards a punishment till rising of the court. So therefore, it doesn't create any perceptible impact on the offenders of the law.
Sir, so in your opinion, what reform would have had the greatest impact in achieving convictions? I mean, you just said that it does not get the deserved respect. Till the rising of the court, it's not meaningful conviction, all right? So how different is it from sex trafficking cases? Why is it that it does not get as much as importance as a sex trafficking? I mean, both of it falls under human trafficking, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It is a conviction, but it is not sufficiently deterrent to prevent occurrence and recurrence of this offence.
Okay.
In other words, there are offenders of law who commit the offence and escape with impunity. And it is this culture of impunity which needs to be thoroughly discouraged.
Okay. Sir, if you could change one thing about law enforcement to fight bonded labor, what would it be?
See, law is an enabling mechanism. It's the product of a particular point of time. It can certainly set the pace and trend for certain decisions to be taken, but it cannot nip social evils in the bud. We need a couple of things for that. To start with, we need political will, commitment and determination. We had this in abundant measure in 70s. For example, when the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act was enacted, this found a very prominent place in the old 20-point program of Srimati Indira Gandhi, that bonded labor system is declared illegal and stands abolished by law. Now, that political will, commitment and determination remained for some time, 70s and 80s in particular, because it also found place in the new 20-point program on 14th January 1982. But then that old gusto and tempo has disappeared, and we do not have the same wave of enthusiasm or commitment which is necessary to deal with social evils. For example, no fresh surveys have been conducted to identify the incidence of bonded labor system after 80s. There have been surveys conducted with the help of non-governmental organizations, but when the findings were presented before the magistrate, all the cases have been disposed of summarily on the ground that they are not bonded laborers. This is particularly true with regard to a state like Tamil Nadu. In 2008, a survey was conducted with the help of NGOs. 12,320 bonded laborers were found, recommended by the NGO to the Revenue Divisional Officer for issue of release orders. But all the cases were disposed of summarily and not a single bonded laborer could be released. This had also happened before when 25,000 plus bonded laborers were identified, but then 14,000 cases were rejected and barely 12,000 were left, but all of them have not yet been rehabilitated. So there has been a huge gap between the date of identification and release and date of rehabilitation. And because of the inordinate delay in rehabilitation or the lukewarm approach towards rehabilitation, large number of bonded laborers have gone back to the bondage of the erstwhile master. Many of them might have died, many of them might have migrated. Since the registers are not being maintained under Rule 7 of the Bonded Labour System Abolition Rules, it is very difficult to keep track of the bonded laborers who are identified and released and who are not rehabilitated in time. Now, this is the unfortunate ground level reality obtaining today.
But sir, I would hate to interrupt in here. Is there not a state level monitoring committee to monitor this, at least in the state level?
There is a state level monitoring committee, for example, in Tamil Nadu, and it is under the chairmanship of the chief secretary. It does meet once or twice a year, but it is not able to devote adequate time in monitoring the pace and progress of what is happening on the ground. The performance of the vigilance committees at the district and sub-divisional level are not being monitored as closely and as intensively as they should be. And the monitoring committee is not able to really scrutinize and professionally assess as to what was required to be done and what is being done and how to improve the content and quality of the programs so that the rehabilitation of bonded laborers who are identified and freed from bondage could be permanent, effective and meaningful.
That was an alarming number that you mentioned earlier, sir, but can you just briefly explain the role of NGOs in this? I mean, you were just mentioning an alarming number of bonded labor released information which is not taken in. So can you just quickly brief us through the role of NGOs in advocating the cause of bonded labor releases?
As I look at NGOs, they are not substitutes of governmental action. They are not competitors of government. They are very important collaborators. They are very important supplementers and complementers of governmental action, because government does not have outreach to all the areas and to all sections of humanity because of obvious limitations. So therefore, if government could work in close collaboration with NGOs and proceed with the task of identification, release and rehabilitation, good results could be achieved. This unfortunately has not been the case in most of the states, but in Tamil Nadu, as I saw it very recently through the International Justice Mission, they have been playing a pioneering role, primarily because of the fact that they have good, right-thinking individuals like Selvan Suthakar. They are in a position to collaborate with government. They are aware of their professional role in identification, release and rehabilitation. For example, when 512 laborers were released from a brick kiln at Army in Panneri Revenue Division in Tiruvallur district, this NGO played a very lead role in documenting all the NGOs, ascertaining all the essential relevant details about the freed bonded laborers, arranged for their transportation, and ever since has been maintaining a close and constant liaison with the sub-divisional administration at Panneri and the respective states where they have been repatriated.
That is fantastic news, sir. Thank you for all that information. I will just pan over to Ms. Pranita, who in fact is the Director Aftercare with International Justice Mission, who also led the team to rehabilitate 3,700 bonded laborers. She will shed more light on this issue after the break. Stay tuned.